Hey there, Cubby and Christine, and we are back. You are watching the Holiday Light Special. We are officially all Christmas. And Christine, look who's joining us from Aspen, Colorado.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that is the one and only Matt Nathanson, everybody. And it looks freezing where you are right now.
Ooh, it's so cold here, Cubby. We're just trying to stay warm. Just heaters and hot chocolate and slippers. Yeah, that's what we're doing.
Beautiful. A nice sweater.
Yeah, exactly. Tell everybody where you really are right now.
I'm in, look at that though.
Oh, that's beautiful.
So a kid, just real quick, I guess a fan had this on and I said, oh, that's, in a meet and greet. And I was like, that's such a great sweater. And then he, like 6 months later, he's like, I got you. And part of me was just being nice. And then part of me was like, yeah. And so I busted out. I busted out occasionally.
Yeah. I hope the kid who gave you the sweater is watching this.
I know. It would be great. He should feel psyched. I mean, it's a good sweater. It's comfortable, nice size. And who doesn't want to, is this a sloth? Who doesn't want a sloth in a Santa hat?
The famous Christmas sloth, yes.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's a very underrated claymation, 70s claymation.
Right.
So what have you been doing the last few months? Before we talk about, all your music, this is the big question because we're doing this in such a different way. Tell me how the last few months have been for you.
It's funny. I feel like, I'm sure like everybody, I've lived 2 lifetimes in like 7 months. There's been the period where you're like just eating short-acting carbohydrates and being bummed out. And then there's the period where you're like exercising and like back at it. And then there's the period where you're like writing a ton of songs and reading a lot of books and doing a lot of great stuff. And then there's some times where you're just staring at like, watching episodes of Schitt's Creek, you know what I mean, on Netflix. Yeah. And it's like, that's kind of how it works. It was funny. It really has felt, I was saying to my wife this morning, there were people that I was talking to regularly when this all started who I haven't talked to like in months. And it feels like I haven't talked to them in 10 years. It's such a weird trip. But anyway, I've just been mostly keeping busy. I got a studio space away from the house because I'd been touring so much that my being at home and doing work always worked out. But being home for 7 months straight with my kid homeschooling and my wife there, and it was like, I'm going to need a space. So I found a space that's kind of walkable from my house here in the city. And I just come down and it's like my office. And I just kind of come in and do a bunch of work and write a lot and do Zoom writing and that kind of stuff. But it's pretty much been here in San Francisco, haven't really left.
Do you give yourself a steady schedule? Do you say there's a certain amount of time every day that you want to devote to writing or creating music to stay on track?
Yeah, it's such a funny idea because when the inspiration hits you, you have to kind of like stop the car, pull the car over and like do the thing. So I'll have my voice notes or I'll have my journal. So when the lightning hits, last night at about 2 a.m, I woke up and I had to go into the living room and kind of work this thing out. So, but other than that, I kind of keep the muscles, strong by coming in every day and, trying to write, trying to like pick up the guitar and just see what comes out. And a lot of times it's a lot of stuff that doesn't really matter, but then you're kind of ready when something does.
So last year you had the single out, right? Christmas Baby, Please Come Home. But this year it's an album, not just a single, right?
Yeah. So I was doing this thing with my mailing list every year for the past maybe 6 or 7 years. I stole the idea from REM and Pearl Jam and all those bands that used to do fan club singles, and they do them at the holidays. And so I would do these, just send out MP3s. My guitar player, Aaron, and I would record when we were on tour, or we'd record when we had downtime and just do like one song a year and kind of send them out. And then we had this idea. It was like, why don't we pull the ones of these that are really good together, make them, maybe add some instrumentation and then go in the studio a couple times and get some real good ones and try and make a go at having a full record. And so that happened last year. And it's been rad to inhabit songs that are so good, melodically and structurally and sort of like classics. I don't tackle the classics. And so it's fun to really do Blue Christmas or Donde Está Santa Claus, these songs that are like so amazingly written. And it's fun to kind of fit them on me a little bit.
Right.
Yeah, you brought some people in with you, right? To do Little Drummer Boy, and it
Yeah.
collaborating really nicely.
Yeah, it's fun. And there's a bunch of stuff. There's a lot more. I think we kind of recorded way more than we're putting out this round. But it was like Donovan Woods, who's this Canadian songwriter who I love. I wanted to do that Bing Crosby, David Bowie, sort of like, if you remember from our, like in the 80s, they would be around a fire and they did Little Drummer Boy. And it was just fun to bring people on. And we got a mariachi band in to do some stuff. And it was just like, it's been a really weird way to make a record, because it's been over the course of years of like just kind of throwing stuff at it. And then finally this year we kind of mixed it, got it all together, and I was like, oh, this is kind of rad. It's kind of it's got a little bit of this, there's a sadness to the holidays that I kind of like, right? The sort of the end of the year, the sort of getting dark early, but also being with people. So there's this sort of joyful thing. And I think a lot of the songs on the record really sort of show that in a neat way. It was fun to listen to all at once and be like, oh, wow, this is like a thing. This is great. This isn't just a collection of songs.
Here's what I'm impressed by. I don't know anybody that has redone Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer.
Oh my God, that song's
Until
so
I
good.
met you, my friend.
I love that song.
Was that just one of your favorites? I've yet to hear it. I can't wait to hear this.
Dude, there's a bunch of ones that, so growing up in Massachusetts, there was one that was like this parody of the 12 Days of Christmas that's amazing, that I think has
Yes,
made
I've
its
heard
way
that.
around. Yeah, and I want to do that. And I wrote a bunch of songs too that didn't make it this go around, but I was talking about it before, being half Jewish and half Catholic, we always joke that we light the Christmas tree 8 times at my house. That was kind of what we did. And so I've got a bunch of my own ones that didn't actually make this record, but we're gonna, we'll have sort of a second version. But it's been great. And Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer. It's just so fun to dig into those songs that you know them. I didn't even have to look at the lyrics. I didn't have to even, it was just like, oh yeah, Grandma Got Run, here we go, 1, 2, 3. And everyone was like, ba-doom, and we're in, and it was great. And and there's Father Christmas by the Kinks, which is just one of my favorite songs of all time, Christmas or not. And there's one that we didn't do, which is sort of Sacred Ground, which is Fairy Tale of New York, which is the Pogue song. That's Christy McCall, and it's a little bit, it's an adult themed Christmas song, but it's really, really great. If I could find someone to do that. It's just one of those things that every year it's kind of like, oh, let's do another couple. That's fun. Let's do it. That's
Right.
rad.
So tell us about some of your Christmas traditions then. You said you were brought up where you were celebrating Hanukkah and Christmas?
Yeah, there was a lot of gifts in my house. There
Oh,
was
I
like, it was awesome. Like starting December, whatever, Hanukkah can come real early, December 12th or whatever, it would be like game on. So it's a funny, the one tradition that I've carried over. So my best friend and I are still best friends since we were 5 years old outside Boston. And then now in San Francisco, we both live here. And he has helped me put up my Christmas tree every year since we were 6 or 7. We used to have a fake tree at home, and then we bargained with my father and my mother to get a real tree. And then anyway, we still do it every year. And so my kid, who's 10, we all do it together. And one of the traditions that we have is that we always put on the Muppets and John Denver Christmas record, and we always watch Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas. And so those are like the two things that carry over that literally every year I do. And it's fascinating to keep doing it. We still have the vinyl record that we had when we were 7, that we like put on, and we like, it's not a ritual in any way. It's just a thing that's like, oh yeah, here we go. We got to do it. Let's put up the tree. Let's put this together. And then it's like every year. And the record is only 22 minutes long. So when you put up a tree and you decorate a house, it's like real commitment. You listen to that thing like 36 times. So yeah, that's one of the big traditions.
Hey, Matt, being in New York City, and we're the big Christmas station, when you think New York City and Christmas, do you have memories? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, there's been moments in my life where I've been able to be on tour in the holiday time in New York, and there really is I know everybody says this, but America really only has one city, you know what I mean? And the rest are kind of towns, and New York is the city. And it's like being there when people are ice skating, being there when people are, bundled up, and it's like jazz playing everywhere, and coffee shops when you go in, and the markets where you can go buy stuff that are set up. And it's like that really is New York has a lot of magical things about it, but the holidays in New York, it's like every time it's where my brain goes immediately when I think like,
Mhm.
oh, America during the holidays, it's like New York City. It's
Yeah.
great.
Where do you think you're spending the holidays this year? Are you going to stay in San Francisco?
Yeah, I think we're gonna
Yeah.
be with the way that the timeline is working these days.
Mhm.
I think I'm gonna be home for quite a while. If you want, I might build a rocket ship, or I might, I'm just not sure how it's all gonna play out. But I'm definitely going to be home and just kind of keeping it small. And I think people aren't going to be traveling. So friends of mine that would normally go away will probably come to us that are kind of in our pod. We have the way that our house works is that our backyard is tied into other backyards. So since the beginning of the pandemic, we've been and they all have kids, and so we've had this sort of like weird little commune where everybody gets together and has dinner, and nobody, nobody goes outside of their pod all that much, and we get tested regularly, and it allows us to kind of have a togetherness thing. So
That's
it's,
great that
it's
you
yeah,
have the community. I keep saying, right, Cubby? I'm like, I need a bigger bubble. I need more people.
yeah.
You
Right.
know?
It's
Right.
funny. Yeah, at the beginning of it, I was like, my wife was like, we're gonna all bubble up and we're gonna like share stuff, and I was like, oh, dude, come, and then all of a sudden I was like, I'm so thankful that we have
Mm,
everybody, and my kid can get up in the morning and kind of go out, because you have to be a little bit more diligent about it because you're sort of thinking for the group. And
yeah.
so, but having this thing where my kid can get, this morning she just got up at like 7 and like ran outside and went to the trampoline that's in the other yard, and then and everyone was up, and then there was like this commotion, and it's all a bunch of 8, 9, and 10-year-olds kind of hanging out.
How old is your daughter?
She's 10.
So is she already hinting about what she wants? I mean, what do you get a 10-year-old for Christmas? What is
It,
Santa going to bring her?
I think she wants her own apartment. Like
Oh,
literally, I mean, I am so under equipped at this point to do anything that she needs me to do. I mean, she talks about things on such a level that, I mean, we're repainting her room, and we're gonna read. She's like, I'd like my room to reflect who I am. Like, I'm like,
wow.
what?
She's
Reflect who you
deep.
are? Yeah, it's crazy. So I'm just hanging on for dear life. So probably by January, February, she's going to want a place of her own, and maybe like an electric scooter so she can get there, or she might want to be taught how to drive. I don't know. I'll keep you guys posted on how it all shakes down.
How about one thing that you remember being a kid and what you really wanted? Like whenever anybody asked me that question, it was always a game system of some sort. I had to have the Atari or Intellivision or ColecoVision. But what is a something you remember asking Santa for and you had to have? Or that's right. Or you celebrate? Are you?
Yeah, I was flush with my family did gift. My mother did gifts, like it was her thing, even if we
Right.
didn't have the ability to, even if it was outside of our means. so so there was a lot of gifts, but I always wanted those things. When you watched those 80s movies where like the toy or whatever, where kids were riding around on like electric, like Rocky 4, where the kid comes out and he's like on this. I was like, I want a car. I want like a top down Jeep for like a 9-year-old. And I was like, can I get one of those? And they never showed up. I mean, literally bigger than our house. But I was always like, I would love something where I could just be, bust a move
Yeah.
and drive somewhere, and never got it.
Right. 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 Because you do celebrate both, right? You celebrate Hanukkah and Christmas. You said back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
back then, and now we do. My kid kind of made it so my kid kind of said, I'd like to have Seder. When Seder's, I'd like to do this. I'd like to dig into my roots in that way, because for me, I'm a bit of a lapsed all around, but my kid kind of was like, hey, I want to do this. I'm Jewish and I want this to be, and and so we just kind of follow her lead. It's pretty
Right.
rad.
Nice. So since she's dictating, what is the food? What's the menu going to look like, do you think?
Oh man, I don't know. I think if she had her way, it would be sort of yeah. The good news is that because my wife's family lives here, that stuff, they really get into that part of it. And so it's usually we do a Christmas Eve kind of soup situation, like a big pot of stuff, and we all kind of hang out, and then there's raclette, which is the dopest stuff on the planet Earth. Have you ever had raclette?
No,
No,
what is that?
I've heard of it though.
Mm-mm.
It's this cheese. It's like a big wheel, half wheel of cheese that lives under a lamp, and it heats, and then you scrape the cheese off onto it sounds it sounds like literally something you would call someone to exterminate. But when you do it, and you onto the plate, and you crackers and little kind of cornichons or whatever, it's magical. I mean, at the holidays, I want my entire life covered in raclette. Like if they could just cover my car. I would just take like a industrial size, and these bricks of cheese are no joke. I mean, you could definitely take out an entire, like a car if you threw it at it or something. It's a big thing, but it's fun to scrape it and eat it. So yeah, a lot of raclette, a lot of artery clogging raclette.
That's what the holidays are all about.
Yeah, that's what it's like. If I can't clog myself up during the holidays, what am I doing?
How about we're talking about Christmas wishes this year, and I know it's been such a big year, but what is your wish going into 2021?
I would love it if human beings could treat themselves and each other with more empathy and softer. And I would love it if I'm a fairly self-focused human, a recovering narcissist, as my wife likes to say. And when I'm the most when I feel like I'm the most giving in a situation, in terms of like how I think we should view other people and how I think we should help other people and how we should stay kind of non-judgmental of things, I know we're in trouble when I'm the barometer of like. And so we've just been in such a tough spot with the way that the world is working, that I would love it if as a country we came together to sort of like hang with each other's differences, but also stand up for and stand up against injustice in a real way, where we treated humans. We didn't see everyone as equal, but we saw them as because they're not. And so if we could just find a way to elevate everybody and give people space so that we could bring them together and not project our own vision of how we think people live on other people. Do you know what I mean? It's like, because it's an uneven playing field, and it would be really great if we could see it that way and then go about helping those who are less fortunate and who are are getting less than zero, and elevating folks up. That would be great. That's my Christmas wish.
That might be the best answer we've heard, Christine. That's perfect.
I'm hoping that happens for all of us too. Thank you. Yeah.
Is there anything we haven't hit that you want to promote? I mean, the audience is at your disposal. Go ahead.
No, if anybody has a sloth? If anybody has a pet sloth, I would love to be able to kind of just hang out with it. So that's really it. It's just sort of a PSA, like those Sarah McLachlan late night commercials with the animals, except it's a little different. It's me.
Don't make me cry.
Yeah, in the arms of a sloth. So if you happen to have a three-toed sloth at your house, I'll rent an RV, and I'll see you in 3 weeks, and I'll be petting it.
Well, Matt, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy New Year. God bless you, man.
Awesome. Great to see you all. Thanks for having me.
See you. Thank you.
106.7 Lights FM.